Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A. So we put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little crafting, and let's get to it. First question. Do the disadvantages of static stretching also apply to field athletes or only strength athletes? I've noticed top football, soccer teams still use a lot of static stretching during warm-ups. Good question. Do the performance negatives still exist? Yeah, absolutely. They reduce explosive power. If you static stretch, you're going to lose explosive power for probably a good 30-40 minutes, maybe longer. It is going to reduce your performance, reduce your speed, reduce your explosiveness, your vertical leap, your max strength, everything else. Now, what they're doing, and I'm surprised it's top ones doing it, but this is before practice. And what people need to understand, most field athletes and real professional athletes understand what a lot of gym rats don't understand. Practice and training isn't done to exhaustion. You're not in there putting forward maximum effort. Practice is just practice. Meaning they get out and they play football for an hour or 2 hours for practice. Do you honestly think they're going 100%? No, they're working on skills. They're working on their basic skills for their sport. They're not doing it to complete exhaustion. They're not running and sprinting until they're vomiting and throwing up. They're not trying to improve their peak performance. In fact, even if they are, all real athletes know that you undulate intensity and effort. You don't train till exhaustion. You train until you get an adaptation. And the top athletes and top coaches in the world understand this. It's only people like bodybuilders and gym rats who don't seem to grasp this. And it's because, unfortunately, most are very ignorant about sports sciences. They're ignorant about how the body adapts to things. So it's not their fault, they're just not well read. Whereas in the coaches for these athletes are. But when you're coming in and lifting weights, particularly lifting heavy weight, you're obviously trying to lift a fairly challenging weight. If you have fatigued your ability to produce maximum force, obviously, if you are training for strength and power, it's going to be reduced. It's the same thing if you're doing work sets. Meaning, if you're going to come in and do 8 heavy reps to close to failure or near muscle failure, and you static stretch first for those body parts, you're not going to be able to use the same amount of weight for 8 reps. It's going to be slightly reduced. Therefore, you are going to get a slight reduction in training adaptation. But the difference is these people aren't out here trying to build maximum power while they're at practice. All right, people need to understand there is a big difference there. They're just training skills. It doesn't matter if they lose 1 or 2% of their maximum explosive power or maximum strength, right? Because that's not what they're doing. But hopefully they're not doing that in the weight room before they do power cleans or squats or push presses, because then that's going to reduce their performance and it's going to reduce their adaptation. The other thing to consider there is that, again, they're not out there pushing themselves to their limit. It doesn't matter if maximum performance is slightly compromised. They're doing basic skills and basic sport-specific skills and conditioning and everything else. That's what they're doing when they're out there practicing. Now, that being said, I would hope that the same people, before they go to an actual competition, before the actual game starts, that they would be doing dynamic work. And hopefully their strength and conditioning coaches have them doing dynamic work instead, because that's obviously going to be better. Dynamic stretching is not going to negatively affect those things. Big difference people need to understand. And also people need to understand warming up's a little different for a field sport than it is for something in which you're going to have control of the range of motion and action. Meaning field sports, you're oftentimes going to move a lot, you're going to shift a lot, you're going to turn a lot. You're going to put different side loading on joints that you wouldn't get while doing normal strength training and things. So that's one of the big differences too between the warming up of why I say that a lot of warm-ups before weightlifting are oftentimes not really beneficial. A lot of types are not. But yeah, hopefully before they go into an actual competition, they're switching over to dynamic stretching. And they would probably do better to dynamic stretch before the other practice, but it probably isn't going to make enough of a difference to make a difference, because they're not out there putting forward maximum effort during a practice, even at the professional level. That's just not what their goal is. But if your goal is to go into the gym and you're about to put forward maximum effort to stimulate muscle growth or strength in the gym, doing something that's going to impede your performance first, like static stretching, would probably not be a very good idea. Is it going to make a massive difference? No, but it's going to make a little bit of difference. You've just done something counterproductive that wasted 3 minutes of your day to do something that's going to reduce your results 1%. Kind of silly, isn't it? So that's a perspective you have to look at it from, understanding the context in which we are talking about these things. All right, next question. Is it a good idea to train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday gymnastics, and Tuesday and Thursday just doing squats and bench press, since I've noticed the chest and legs are the forgotten muscles in gymnastics? I want to know if this is the best way to go about it. By the way, sometimes by Tuesday my shoulders and triceps are sore from gymnastics, so my bench is bad. Should I bench? If so, honestly, if gymnastics is your thing, you're doing gymnastics 3 times a week and only lifting 2 days a week, I would rotate it up a little bit. And the reason I say that is because I have a feeling that if your bench press is suffering on Thursday, and then you're going to have to do gymnastics again Friday, I don't know, probably not the best of ideas. What I might recommend is switching the bench press over to Saturday, because my concern would be if those things are so fatigued that they're causing a problem on your Thursday benching, that maybe Saturday would be the better day to do your benching, and then you've got 24 hours of rest afterwards where you're doing no training, and you can focus on just doing your bench once a week. And you know what? That's totally acceptable. Normally, I wouldn't say an exercise you want to get a lot better at, you should only do once a week. However, you're doing gymnastics 3 days a week. Chest actually does get worked in gymnastics. I'm not sure what's making you think it's not. Pulling yourself up on those rings and everything, pulling yourself up on that bar, pressing yourself up on the bar and the rings, that is absolutely working your chest. Absolutely working your chest. Yeah, it's working a lot of delts and a lot of tricep, but your pecs are getting worked there, man. They really are. Whether you're realizing it or not, every time you push yourself up on the rings or push yourself up on a bar, that's your pecs. Your pecs are taking a pretty big brunt of the workload, so they're getting trained in there. I might recommend, just for the best recovery curve with it, maybe switching the bench over to Saturday personally. That way it's not going to interfere with your Friday gymnastics. And, I don't know, arguable. Honestly, you're probably not going to see much difference doing it that way, but if it was me, that's the way I would do it, and then I would squat on the Tuesday. You could even squat on the Thursday and come in and do the bench on the Saturday as well. Or you could just keep doing it the way you're doing it. I guess the question I would ask is it interfering with your Friday training as far as your gymnastics, which seems to be your main endeavor? And if it's not, then you can keep it on Thursday, because ultimately at the end of the day, you need to realize you're coming in and just doing bench press for chest as a secondary thing. Quite frankly, because again, whether you realize it or not, all that ring work and stuff that you're doing, and again, anytime you're pressing yourself up on the bar, that is absolutely using pectorals. In fact, I would go so far as to say you could probably get decent pectoral development doing that alone. But I certainly wouldn't recommend that you bench twice a week, most definitely, if you're doing all that ring work Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So like if you're coming in Tuesday and Thursday and doing bench in between, that's where your real problem is. Your chest and your triceps and everything are just getting hammered too hard with too much total workload through the week without enough downtime. So either way you look at it, I would still cut the bench press down to 1 day a week because of all the gymnastic work you're doing. And I think you'll do just fine with that. I think you'll have no problem developing thick, full pectorals doing that. And don't forget that you are actually getting chest work during the gymnastic work. You might not feel like it to you because your chest is probably fairly strong, and so you feel like the triceps and delts are getting all of that, but they really aren't. Your pecs, if you look at the biomechanics of some of those movements you're doing, your pecs are absolutely getting work. They're absolutely getting stimulation, and if you give them just 1 day every week with a little more priority, they should blow up just fine. Shouldn't be a problem for you. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I see people in the gym doing ab exercises every day religiously. I deadlift almost every week and feel people would be better off doing that for a stronger core rather than doing abs every single time they come into the gym. Your thoughts? Depends on where you're at. I believe in both, to be fair. Deadlift can build a tremendous core. Squats build a tremendous core. Push presses build a tremendous core. These are exercises I'm very big on. However, I think a little bit of core work thrown in isn't a bad thing, particularly if your core is a weak point. Like for Brittany, for example, my girlfriend who I'm training, people are seeing her progress on Instagram. In case you can put her in the photo, they're like, wow, she's made amazing progress. Brittany, every time we go to the gym, she deadlifts. She does one peak set of deadlifts, and we undulate the intensity. But she does a set of standing band crunches for her core at the end of her workout, every workout. Does it add that much? No, because her deadlifting 3 days a week gives her most of her core development. And I don't think anyone who understands exercise is going to disagree with that point. But your core could be a limiting factor sometimes in how much you deadlift. So that being said, coming in and doing a little bit of core work at the end of each workout isn't necessarily a bad idea, because there's a point where a lot of people would say, sure, you're probably getting great core development from these lifts, and you probably are. But having too strong of a core has never been a problem for anyone in any sport known to history. Having a core that is too strong is never going to harm your performance in anything that you do. And if anything, having a core too weak could be a bigger concern. So I think a little bit of additional core work isn't a bad thing. Now, the amount some people do, they're coming in and doing 5 or 6 sets for their core every workout. Yeah, these are people who clearly are just neglecting their core by doing piss poor exercise choices. They're probably not squatting or deadlifting enough. And that's why they're coming in and doing that, because they do have a weak, underdeveloped core. But I certainly don't see any problem with adding a set or 2 of cores at the end of each workout. You want to do some band crunches or cable crunches a set, followed by a set of plank at the end of every workout, that's fine. As long as you understand that it is secondary work that you are doing and not your primary work, that really and truly your big, heavy, standing compound movements are ultimately going to give you most of your core strength. They are powerhouses, and they build your whole body, including the core. All right, next question. Howdy, Jason. Bit of a weird question, but can you go over different strategies to prioritize one lift over the other? Basically, my deadlift is really weak compared to my squat, and I'd like to maintain my squat while really pushing my deadlift for a while. Is this possible? Can I potentially develop muscular imbalances? Appreciate the help, Jason. All right, brother, you're never going to develop a muscular imbalance because you prioritize one big full body movement over another. You could develop muscular imbalances if you focus exclusively on the bench press and not rowing or chin-upping and let those fall way back. That could cause a muscle imbalance. But usually most problematic muscular imbalances are interior in nature, meaning the front side of your body is too strong for the rear. Very rarely is a muscle imbalance the other direction, the posterior side, going to cause you problems. Very, very rare. So in this case, you're wanting to prioritize a movement that is more posterior chain dominant and posterior side of your body dominant. You don't have to worry about that. Not going to be a problem. What I generally recommend, what the guys in the 50s and 60s figured out, guys like Steve Reeves, Reg Park, all those guys, what they figured out, in my opinion, still holds true today. I think they came up with a very effective method of prioritizing a weak point or a weak exercise. Do it first in your workout. Real simple. And that's one of the funny things that's so hilarious. That's one of the things people complain about with full body routines, is that the exercises you do later in the routine are harder, and sometimes they don't get as much work and development because you're fatigued, right? So they feel like they get an imbalance from it. Well, change this exercise selection. Normally in a normal routine, you start with the biggest movements and you work down to the smallest movements, right? That's considered standard training. That's how standard full body training is done. However, if you have an exercise that you feel is lagging and you want to prioritize, do it first thing. And deadlift's not a bad choice at all, because deadlift could just as easily be done as the first lift. The only reason a lot of power lifters do deadlift last in a full body routine is because that's how they compete in meets. They need to be able to deadlift when they're fatigued after hitting maxes on other lifts. So if they always do their deadlift fatigued, it'll be more realistic in a competitive environment for them. However, if it's simply a case of you just know that your deadlift is lagging behind your squat from where you want it to be, do your deadlift first. And this can be applied to anything in the body, truthfully. You know what Steve Reeves used to do, because he felt his biceps lagged for a while behind his other stuff. He came in and started with like incline curls. He did incline curls at the start of every workout, then did his squats, deadlift, bench press, overhead press. And that seems kind of funny because it's such a small muscle, but it worked. And he did that for a while and found that it brought up his lagging biceps better because he was fresh and could put more focus into them. And that's the way that you balance any full body routine. And a lot of people don't realize that it really is that simple. If you have a muscle that you feel is lagging because you get fatigued by the time you get to the lifts that hit it in a full body routine, and you feel like it's not getting enough work, switch the order. Do it first. Do it first. So if you feel your deadlift is lagging, come in and deadlift first. Get your deadlift out of the way when you're fresh so that you can put more focus into it, more energy into it, and bring it up. Problem solved. It is that simple. It's the simplest strategy in the world to bring up a lagging lift, in my opinion. It's time proven and it works damn good. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I want to run your off-season strength program. However, I haven't squatted consistently since July due to a squat injury. I was just given the all clear to start again, and I'm wondering what adjustments you would recommend. What I'm going to recommend after a squat injury, there's going to be all sorts of potential injuries in your body going on. Ease back in slow. Do not go to my off-season routine yet. My off-season routine is for athletes who are serious and are healthy. You've just undergone an injury. All right, I'm going to say go back to something moderate. Go back to maintaining your strength, right? Maintaining your strength on your other exercises. Just sit where they are and spend a month relearning to squat. Getting your technique down perfect on your squat. Building your basic squat strength back up. Spend a whole month doing that. When you get your basic squat technique and strength back up to where everything hurts, you get all those joints moving the way they should again, the connective tissue stops getting inflamed again from the movement, then go into my routine. Don't do it immediately. Wait a month, because that routine is based upon the fact that you're bringing up all these exercises in a serious progression. And if you're taking one of your biggest, most important exercises and you're not working it into the routine and the progression correctly, you can mess up the whole balance of the routine. So I'm going to say take a month, just chilling, just maintaining where you are on everything, and spend a month focusing on relearning the squat, relearning the mobility, relearning the technique, getting all those joints mobile again so that you can progress safely on the exercise. And video yourself every session, assess your technique, and make sure your technique is good. If you've had a squat injury, you need to make sure it wasn't overuse related versus a bad technique related. And if it's technique related, you're going to need a full month to relearn that squat routine anyways, to relearn how to squat correctly. Better safe than sorry when it comes to injuries you've had in the past. Learn from those mistakes. Figure out what you did wrong so that you can do better next time. Don't ever take a setback as a failure. Take a setback as a potential learning experience so that you can improve yourself. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.